Welcome to another episode of Beyond the Studio Walls Artist Interviews, brought to you by Elizabeth Zadoff Art Advisory. My name is Alexa Carvajal, and in this episode, Elizabeth sat down with Judith Modrak to discuss her journey through the COVID-19 pandemic.
How did you respond to the news that we were changing our lifestyles 100%?
Okay, so fortunately, from a practical perspective, from a logistical perspective, I was able to walk to my studio. So I was not impacted by not being able to enter the building or have access to my special place. And that was a real godsend. That was without question saving grace for many reasons. I think it also psychologically was just very helpful to leave the apartment and then go to the studio as I would normally do in the midst of this larger catastrophe that was unfolding. So I think I was very fortunate in that respect. In times of dread, the artist must not remain silent. And that is so salient. Now is not the time for us to be silent. Now is the time for us to express ourselves and our voices and our pain and our joy. It's not so much that the pandemic came and then it changed my body of work or the way that I'm viewing it. It is much more of a concentration intensification.
Was there some sort of an ideal that was in the embodiment of that hope inside of you that was manifested in the work that is still going on right now?
I think the way that I would phrase that, or the way that I would interpret it in my practice, is more, it wasn't that I was funneling hope so much as that the act in and of itself is a hopeful act. To go to the studio and to create the work, and to create the work with an intention. And for this public artwork, for example, because of COVID, it wasn't clear when, and we're only finalizing things now, where the pieces would go and would it open up and what does that mean? And just even beyond that, I think on a higher plane for me is more the creative act is an act of hope. It's an act of optimism. Even if the work, and some of my work is, the figures in particular are very vulnerable and can, reflect anxiety and insecurity and other human traits, the act of doing it is tremendously hopeful and optimistic.
Do you have a roadmap now that we're sort of moving, hopefully, a little out of at least the 2020 into something else that's a little bit more mobile, perhaps? What kind of what do you already have some things in motion? Talk about that. And then also where you think that your next steps might be leading you, if you have that capacity to think that far at this point.
And I would say there's streams of work, Elizabeth. So there's more of the gallery museum work, which is what you see in the studio. That's fragile. I mean, it's strong work, but they're plaster casts, so they're not outdoor sculptures, and typically are exhibited in a museum or gallery space. And it's interesting with growth because I bubbled up that cellular skin to the outside of it. And that was really about, I'm not sure, but I do think the amplification of the pandemic. So when you asked the question initially, it did, absolutely, because I started thinking, what is the skin, the connective tissue that binds us to one another and also binds us. So to me, it's really intriguing to think about things on multiple planes. So it's, on one plane is what it binds all of us. On another plane, it's this situation that was very serious that was occurring with my father. And then on another plane, there's my own language. You know, how do I communicate? And what are the tools that I use to communicate? You know, how do I communicate with other people? So, and then within the work itself, it's sort of they're communicating to their ancestors within the body of work. It's so nice to have you in the studio with the family.
Yeah.
So,
Wow. Well, thanks for the privilege, Judith, and I look forward to being in touch again soon.
okay. All
Okay.
right. Take
Bye-bye.
care.
You too,
Take care.
Katie. Bye.
Thank you, Judith and Elizabeth, for a great discussion. You can learn more about Elizabeth Zadoff Art Advisory and our initiatives by subscribing to our channel, as well as following us on Instagram and Facebook under Zadoff Art. Thank you for watching.